Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all our Umlink listeners. And welcome to Energy Speaks Back, powered by Hark Systems. My name is Paul Webb. I'm the founder of B2B Energy and I'm your host. Weekly, I present to you energy experts from around the world. And today we are in the UK discussing energy news and the independent live news. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. Before we get into our interview today, I would like to recognise our sponsors. They are Umlink, who are taking the confusion out of the energy industry, Clean Energy Revolution for their knowledge and their networking within the renewable world, B2B Energy for their 11-week energy program and managing organisations' third largest expense, Hark Systems, who are renowned for their energy software, Alexis Energy for their power management, Led by a Vision, who are an LED and a controls company, SignWatts for their electronics and EV transition, and Carbon Black Global for their waste to energy initiatives. And lastly, our certificate partners, Ester Energy. Welcome to episode 63 of Energy Speaks Back, powered by Hark. And my special guest today has been pioneering energy news in the UK. He runs two companies around net zero and energy live news, which has inspired businesses to go to net zero. So without any further ado, I give you our New Year's Eve countdown with Geoff Curran. Good afternoon, Geoff, and how are you today?
I'm very well. Yeah, very well. I've had a very good week, actually, considering we're meant to be winding down. I've had a good sales week, so that's great. And let's be frank, it's 21's not been the easiest of years, and I thought 2022 was going to be sort of tough, but actually, I'm sort of thinking no, it might not be too bad, actually.
Brilliant. And you're based in the UK, so we're going to be speaking the same language today. And based on what we've just said offline, we're definitely speaking the same language because we come from the same part of the UK together. I'm sure that will come out later on in our conversations. So, Geoff, it's funny. I think I know you because I see all your posts and your stuff you do regarding your news, work, live, etc. For the benefit of me as well, really, and our audience today, can you give us some background into Geoff Curran, who he is, where he's come from, his background, and what he's doing now for the industry?
So I'll get out the fact that we've both got the same accent, so we're both Essex boys. We probably used to wear white socks as well.
We won't go there.
That's a real private joke for Essex people. I do apologise to anyone that not from Essex, but Essex blokes tend to have a problem with wearing white socks. Thankfully, I now go to whatever my trousers are. I go with those colour socks.
Yeah, or my tie. Whatever colour
I don't wear a tie anymore. That doesn't happen. Right. It just doesn't happen. So no. You can't see me, everyone. Boy. Yeah, but I've got a T-shirt on. That's pretty much all I've got. My background, oh, God. I mean, let's do the energy bit. In fact, so I'm in the energy world because of Arsenal and because of a suicide of a very close friend of mine. And it's a nice story. It feels like a morbid story, but it's actually a very nice story. So my business partner is a guy called Sumit Bose. He's ex-BBC, and the reason I know him is because my brother worked for the BBC as well. And when I decided to leave corporate life, I was looking to do something around sales training, and I thought it'd be good to have somebody that did media training, around helping people to go on radio, TV, etc. So I rang my brother and said, "Look, I'm going to do this. Who can you recommend?" And he mentioned two people, and one of them was Sumit. And I saw Sumit. We had a beer, as you do. And by the end of the beer, we'd created a company called Get On Message or On Message, and we had a URL which was Get On Message. And that was all about helping people around how to deliver sales presentations, etc., better, and how to be better on the media. But interestingly, the first thing we did, we started making some videos for people, corporate video production. And that went very well. So we basically we gave up the training crap. We just basically went into doing video production. We worked for the likes of HSBC and 3 and all that. And I'm on an Arsenal away trip. I'll get back to the point of this story, by the way. I do love going off on a tangent. So, Paul, stop me when I'm getting boring. Went on this Arsenal trip, met a very nice guy, Dan, who I sort of knew a bit anyway. And he was working for a company called Encore International. If people in the energy world know who Encore were. And they ended up becoming part of M&C and then became part of Schneider Electric. So a lot of the sort of sustainability people and energy risk people at Schneider originally were Encore and M&C. But anyway, Dan and I got chatting and I realised that there was quite an interesting play with what they were doing. And I helped them on some sales stuff and then helped them to put together some videos. And those videos were really about an interview with their managing director, a guy called Mark Dickinson, who's now at Inspired Energy.
I know Mark. Yeah.
They had some of their customers come and do some referrals, and then they had some suppliers. So we had people from Empower, NG, British Gas, and I had to deliver the videos the night before they were doing the energy event, which was at the old motorcycle museum. And when I walked in, it was like, God, there's a lot of people here, and there's a lot of stands.
And this is NEMEX, yeah?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was it was called the Energy Event, which then got taken over by EMAP or whoever. It was in competition to NEMEX and EMEX.
Right.
But we went back the next year because we did some videos all around CRC, if you remember the carbon reduction commitment. Yeah. And it was a bigger show. And I turned around to Sumit and said, your background's news. There's this whole energy thing. I think we should create a news service for energy, which is online and it does video and it does, articles that are written. And he went, no, it's really expensive. We don't want to do that. It's hard work, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, no, I think it's a real idea. So we toyed about it for about a month. And then I was at a Christmas carol service and I got a very weird text from a mate of mine and he just said, such bad news about Hugh. So I went out, rang him and said, what the hell's happened? And he went, haven't you heard? Hugh committed suicide. And I said, no, I hadn't heard at all. So very good friend of mine, didn't realise he suffered from depression. Went home that night and I basically didn't sleep all night. Just all these things going on in my head. And a lot of it was around creating this energy news service. So I rang Sumit and said, right, you got a week. My mate committed suicide yesterday and I'm not getting off this world without having created this service. You're either in or you're out. You've got 1 week. And basically, within the week, Sumit goes, right, I'm in, let's do it. So we basically, that was December 2009, and we launched May 2010 with Energy Live News. We launched 2 weeks before the election, and we, on the day of the day after the election or the second day, whenever the coalition got formed, Sumit went down with a camera person himself, and he basically went up to Chris Huhne and said, "You're the energy minister. We're Energy Live News. You need to talk to us." And Chris Huhne, bless him, went, "I'm sure I've heard of you." Well, we'd only been going 2 weeks. And
I hope he got that on film.
Of course. Oh, no, he didn't actually, unfortunately. So anyway, we picked up the interview of Chris Huhne, and that was us gone. We started.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and that's how we got into the energy world. And we haven't looked back. So Energy Live News is our heritage brand. Been going since 2010. We have done tens of thousands of articles. We've done thousands of videos. In 2019, we had a look at what was happening in the energy world, could see that it was changing more to it's a cost, it's climate change, it's a negative. And we've always liked the positivity around what energy can do. So we created and launched in January 2020 a thing called futurenetzero.com. That's gone really well. And that's all about inspiring businesses to go net zero, committing businesses to their net zero targets and educating them on their net zero pathway. That's gone really well. And it's also enabled us now to create something for SMEs, which is called the Future Net Zero Standard. And that's all about carbon AAA. So carbon accounting, carbon accreditation, and carbon advice. So we've built up a network of solution partners, and they're predominantly energy brokers and TPIs. And they're the carbon advisors. We have the standard, which is effectively the accreditation, and then the carbon accounting. Our preferred partner is a company called Carbon Expert. So we've come a long way, actually. So where we were reporting the news, we're now helping businesses to now fight climate change. And I do believe that that businesses are the way forward for us to do this. I think if you look at the general public, they want to do something around climate change, but a lot of the time they don't know where to start. And I think businesses can really help them, because by businesses looking at their carbon footprint, it makes it that will really help to make a difference. So we've come a very long way from Arsenal and a suicide.
Well, that was a long story. But yeah, I really get that.
You can't even edit it because I didn't even breathe.
No, I'm sure I can though. I'm from Essex, I can edit anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So let's sort of, I'm going to try and dissect some of that. It's not just the UK news you're doing. So I'm sure I've seen there's some global aspects as well, because our audience is a global reach. So my mission is to bring energy experts globally together, and that's what our platform does. So, and you do touch on global news, because I've gone through your, I'm a subscriber. So how many subscribers do you have?
We have, so for Energy Live News, the database is just over 30,000 email addresses, predominantly UK. On Future Net Zero, it's about 23 to 25,000. It's pretty much a subset of what we've got with Energy Live News. The news, when we started Energy Live News, it did four things, which was energy policy and legislation, energy efficiency, energy from a sustainability green agenda point of view, and then energy prices and procurement. So any story that had at least one of those covered was going to be a story. But if you had two or three elements covered, then we tended to, that was always going to be a top story for us. And then Future Net Zero is all about, as I said, inspiring. So it's around anything that's good about combating climate change, etc. So, and those stories can come from, energy prices can be affected by a hurricane in Japan or America.
Exactly.
So that's why we will run stories from around the world. But it'd be fair to say that our audience is predominantly a UK-based audience. But I think the UK energy market is very interesting, because obviously it got deregulated a long time ago. It's almost seen as a bit of an exemplar around the world.
Yes.
And I think from a net zero perspective, it doesn't matter. And I don't think the UK is necessarily that far forward compared to other countries. I think the countries that I think everyone's really looking at net zero. People talk about China and coal plants. We'll talk about China and how many solar plants they're putting as well. Okay, so everyone wants to do the negative. What they forget is that there's a real positive out there as well. And yes, okay, there is a lot of carbon in certain, but the Western world has effectively pushed it over to the east anyway, and we have to accept that we are responsible for that carbon as well as they are.
Everyone's got to become accountable for it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it's interesting you say that you're putting positive slants on it, but it's very easy for us to be negative. We've seen all these weather conditions in America, even in the UK currently at the moment. Strangely, we had 13 degrees yesterday. I monitor the temperature because my girlfriend's from Thailand and she doesn't like the cold. But I said, I listened to the weather forecast in the morning, so don't worry, today it's 13 degrees, unlike what it was last year when it was 1 degree and it was freezing cold. So we're seeing some massive changes in there, and it's hard to keep it positive. But there's lots of positive things that are happening in the industry. And it's quite refreshing you talk about the SME world, because that gets forgotten, doesn't it? You mentioned CRC, we've got SECRA, we've got ESOS, all these legislations are all around the big major energy group.
Absolutely,
And there's nothing for the SME. They're left on their own. They're given no guidance. So they need supporting.
Well, they need supporting and they need the guidance because they are getting totally pushed by their large corporate customers. So again, Energy Live News Limited covers Energy Live News and FutureNetZero.com. Okay. One of our big customers is, I don't think they'll mind mentioning, is SSE. We work for them. And they've been in touch with us to say, look, we want to go net zero. We want to do it through science-based targets. What are you doing? And because I was really good, I could go, we've done our carbon footprint. We're looking at our net zero plan. And because we're doing this thing called the Future Net Zero Standard, I've been able to send my benchmark footprint report and my year 2 to show them what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. Now, we don't have a massive carbon footprint. Our carbon footprint's about 11,500 kilos. Oh, and by the way, if any of your listeners want to see our reports, I'm happy to send them. We're totally transparent about them. We've had a 25% reduction from benchmark to year 2. And I would love to say that we totally planned it. Not at all. It's because we've had way more lockdown. I'm doing a lot more Zoom and Teams meetings nowadays. I don't do as many physical meetings. And the weird thing is that I think this year that we're in, which is our year 3, I will do more mileage. It'll up the carbon again. And so that's made us realise that we are going to go electric vehicles a lot quicker. So Sumit, my business partner's already got one, and I'll be getting one in the new year. And we're going to try and do a lot more travel, either by public transport or by electric vehicles. However, I do travel the country on some big trips, and I will still have to use a diesel car just purely because electric vehicle infrastructure and electric vehicles themselves are not great, okay, yet. They will be, and we will get the infrastructure. However, they're not really fit for purpose. If the trouble is, most car journeys in this country are very small. It tends to be people going down the shops, going to school, going to a local job. Absolutely should use electric vehicles. But until you make it as easy as going to a petrol station or whatever, people aren't going to. I mean, I did go past the other day, which was great. Well, actually, there were lampposts that had electric sockets that go to cars. Brilliant. I mean, we should have loads more of that. Just makes life so much easier.
Yeah. But it goes deeper than that because there's the infrastructure behind all of that and the DNO and the availability of energy.
We'll still get down the DNOs. I really feel for the DNOs
because once we start talking about fast charging as well, then it's going to open a whole new can of worms. We know that going forward.
Yeah. Well, if you look at our capacity from a national grid and DNO perspective, you take 30 million petrol cars off the road and make them all electric. Well, people just don't get it. People just don't get that the capacity was going to go up by like 3 or 4 times. That's massive. I mean, and the DNOs are the poor. I was going to use a very naughty word, but the poor so-and-sos that have got to do it for us. And I feel for them because that's hard. That is a hard thing to do, and they're being told by government you've got to get it sorted. Well,
I need to find
give them enough of investment.
I need to find a DNO expert to come on interview because I think that'd be quite an interesting one.
I probably can find you some. We'll talk after.
All right. Okay. Thank you for that. You have a award ceremony and a show, don't you? That you do. Are you still doing that?
Yeah. So we used to run for energy brokers and consultants 2 things. The Energy Life Consultancy Conference, which we, and in the energy world, we all love an acronym. So that was called ELK. And then we have TELCA, which is the Energy Life Consultancy Awards. And we used to run ELK in March and TELCA in June. There were separate events. We couldn't run them in 2020, so we did online ELK and then an online TELCA. And then this year we went, let's put the 2 of them together. So we put ELK and TELCA together. So we have a day conference and then we have the awards in the evening. We've literally just run it. We ran it 1st of December. Ran that at the IET in London. And was extremely successful, had about more than 70 TPIs there during the day for the conference bit. And then there were over 40 TPIs there who are all on various shortlists for the awards. And basically Telcor, we've been running for about 10 years. It's become the sort of de facto standard. It's the one that they want to win, basically. So we have things like Most Trusted, we have Consultancy of the Year, we have Best Customer Service, we have stuff around well-being and diversity, renewables, innovation, technology. So we do between 10 and 12 awards. So the awards bit only lasts 45, 50 minutes. So we don't do like 25 awards and it's going on for 3 hours. So we get it.
Loses the will to live.
They all lose the will to live, seriously. So we're trying to make it much more like a BAFTAs or an Oscars in the sense of they're worth winning. But unlike the Oscars and the BAFTAs, we get it done within an hour.
Right.
And they're really good. They've and we have both large and small companies that have won, and that's great. It's not, people think, it will just be the big boys that win. That's not the case.
Yeah. What plans you got going forward for 2022?
Well, the big news actually is, so we have futurenetzero.com, and we're always looking for partners that want to work with us in terms of sharing their content, doing webinars and podcasts and videos with us. And I suppose we help them to, we make them look good, but we're also highlighting the good stuff that they're doing. We used to do a thing called Energy Live Expo, was November, and we didn't run it this year because we were at COP26, which was actually a fantastic place to be. And we ran a thing called Festival Net Zero earlier in the year. So we're rebranding Festival Net Zero back to Future Net Zero Live. And we're going to be running that June 21st next year. It's likely to be in Coventry. We're just sorting out the venue as we speak. Should get that sorted in the early first 2 weeks of January. I am looking for sponsors. So if anyone wants to sponsor, please come and see me, Geoff.Curran@energylivenews.com. I'm going to do a pitch.
Really? Was that it? Was it? I'm sure there'll be a picture off the back of this anyway, Geoff.
Yeah, but if anyone wants to sponsor, we're looking for about 50 sponsors, and we want the small and fleet that don't have big budgets. So we've got something that's sensible for them. And then for larger companies, they want to do a bit more of a show. Then we've got options for them as well. But we're going to, because net zero is so important, we're opening it up. So we want big end users, we want SME energy users, we want energy brokers and consultants, we want industry players. You want to come along, you can come along, okay? We just want everyone there, and we'll be doing lots of content. We'll have lots of people to network with. So we're aiming for an audience of between 500 and 800 people to be there on the June the 21st. It's the longest day. I'm sure we're going to work some magic around what that will mean from a theme perspective. But it's called Future Net Zero Live. It's the big thing that we're working on for January and February. We're looking for content. We're looking for people to be involved. I think we're going to go down, a bit like the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games, etc. We're going to probably get some young energy people. Probably from university. So a lot of the universities have energy societies. We're going to get them to come and volunteer and help us on the day. So again, if anyone's out there that's got son and daughter that's interested in the energy world and they want to be there, but they can help us out with getting people in and directing them and guiding them, then come and talk to me, because we're up for those sort of people helping us out as well.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, I'm glad I asked that question. For you just to go into that, because that wasn't planned.
I wouldn't have had that last week, actually. So it's like
just as well you cancelled. I think you cancelled on purpose last week so you can do this. That's going to be good timing.
I haven't got that much thought process. I'm sorry, Paul. There's just not that much thought process.
It's a shame, because this would have gone out Christmas week, but it's not now. I've had to push it back even further, so sorry.
Oh, even better. Marvelous.
We was going to be wearing Christmas hats, weren't we? That's what we agreed to do.
Oh yeah,
turn up with your Christmas hat.
Oh, sorry.
So, Geoff, look, if you've listened to my podcast and you know exactly my formatting of what I do, I like to put my guests on the spot, and the way I do that, is there anything that you can give back to our audience today as a takeaway for them?
The takeaway for the audience is very simple. All right. The world's going to fight climate change. we've got to do something about carbon. Okay, the best thing you can do is work out your carbon footprint. Okay, so whether you're working in a business or whether you want to do it personally, whatever, and don't go into it in a complicated way. There is no point, because you'll just end up going up your own backside trying to work out, make it easy. Okay, sorry, Paul, you probably didn't need that. It's an image that people don't want.
Here we go again. I'm going to have to edit this one.
Yeah. So, and of course, I'm in the vernacular, aren't I? I'm in the Essex vernacular. So somebody in Thailand's probably thinking, what the hell is he talking about? Don't worry, I'm thinking exactly the same.
Globally.
But the takeaway is carbon. You've got to think about your carbon, okay? So you've got energy usage, whether that's in your office, home office, etc. A very simple way of is trying to find proper renewable energy. So if you in the UK, it's quite easy. It's an easy way to find good deep green tariffs are out there. People like Good and Ecotricity. People like Scottish Power use a lot of hydro, etc. You've then got to look at things like your travel. So from a business travel perspective, I am trying not to use my diesel car. I'm trying to look at electric vehicles, look at public transport, etc. And it's difficult because sometimes you've got to spend more time, or it might be more expensive, but you've got to really start thinking this through. We use a lot of cloud servers. So we've got about 4 cloud servers because we've got Energy Live News, we've got futurenetzero.com, I've got a marketing database, I've got Microsoft Exchange. We've been moving our servers. So Amazon couldn't give us a reassurance about renewable energy, so we've gone to Google. Microsoft are going to go green, fully green by about 2025, but I can't shift my Microsoft Exchange server. So unfortunately, I'm stuck with that. But I'm beginning to, I try to have only one meal a day now, where I used to probably eat meat every meal. So I'm trying to do much more plant-based. And that's quite difficult because I thought, yogurt and fruit in the morning. Yeah, yogurt's not plant-based. It's animal-based. So I now have porridge with water and fruit. Of course, the trouble with fruit is there's probably a lot of carbon miles if it's not coming from a local place.
It's not seasonal.
Yeah, and it's a lot of plastic as well. So you start thinking it through, and I've become a bit of a forager. So I'm very fortunate. Harpenden has a common golf course area. So I do a lot of, certainly in August, September, October, even November, I'm doing quite a lot of mushroom hunting. So I have a freezer full of mushrooms at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah. So stuff like that. And I'm just trying to think, I'm very fortunate. The council does very good recycling. So, carbon, but I think actually most people from a residential perspective in this country, certainly the UK, recycling's ingrained now. 20 years ago it wasn't. But the council's got behind it. And I think, as I said, the takeaway is you've got to start thinking about your carbon. You really have got to start thinking about it. So that means...
As an individual, you're saying as well, aren't you? We're not talking business, we're talking as an individual. Everyone needs to start thinking about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, and actually, if it means so my thermostat in the house is 18. But when it's cold, I will put it up. But I set it 18. I'm very fortunate. This is a house that was built in 2005. It's got some space age insulation. So when I'm away, for instance, my heat doesn't tend to come on because at 18, it never really gets below 8. It'd have to be really cold outside for this house to go underneath that. So I'm fortunate in that sense. I know some people, that find it more difficult because they're in older properties. But try and do this at your business. Take this to your business, because businesses want to do it. And as I said, the pressure on SMEs is from their larger customers, and we're seeing it. And public sector contracts in this country you now got to have a proper carbon statement. You've got to understand. So you doing it yourself, but you also doing it within your business, it makes a big difference. And just you putting your hand up and saying you're going to do something will get somebody else interested. And then that person will put their hand up and that will get somebody else interested. And it is a case of, if I only get one person today to do something around their carbon, that's been a success, okay? Because then they'll get somebody else to probably then do it as well. So just really think about your carbon. That's the takeaway. Okay. And I'm happy to talk to anyone about it. So, if you think you'd like some help, as I said, we always set up Energy Live News to less is more. So if you read any of our articles really try to condense some quite complex stories into something much more readable. So the reading age on both of our platforms is 9 to 11. Okay. And the reason we do that is Sumit's from the BBC, and the 6 o'clock news on the BBC is written for 9 to 11-year-old reading age. Okay. So we're a great believer that people make things complicated. I don't know if they necessarily do it on purpose, but they do it because for whatever reason. Carbon doesn't have to be that difficult. No. Okay, and so you just got to think about it. And most people will be using a lot of carbon in travel, consuming it within their houses, and then things like using plastic, etc. Now it's difficult, okay. And I mentioned that I'm trying to go more plant-based, but interestingly, if I've got something in the fridge and it's going off, I'll eat that because I don't want food waste. Because food waste is just as bad, okay. So if I've got something that's meat-based and it's going to be going off in a day, then I'm eating it, okay, because I don't want to waste that food either. Yeah. So there you go. There's the takeaway,
Geoff. That is amazing. Just to let you know, I won't be putting my hand up because I'm already a vegetarian.
Good
so
man.
I've already done that. From 2012.
Wow.
Slightly different reasons, but over the years, I've started realizing the benefits of that regarding climate change and what we're trying to do here in the net zero element of it. And I've moved from a 3-bed to a 2-bed apartment. My temperature is set at 18 because if I have it set any higher, I sweat like anything because I'm getting heat from downstairs. So I'm utilizing. Yeah. So I think the 2020, everyone started to realize, I know a lot of my friends have downsized their properties, downsized their cars and everything. So I think there's been a lot of change around that. And some of the things you're talking about are things I'm hearing throughout. So it's really refreshing to hear. So Geoff, I really thank you for giving us that feedback and thank you for coming today.
No, it's been great. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
It's been awesome. I think this is the only interview I've done where I haven't really said a lot. I normally sort of a lot of interchat. I just pushed a little button and you just went. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your passion and enthusiasm for what you do.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you said, have I done any prep? I've done very little preparation, but actually, if you know your stuff, it should come out. It does. I always find it funny when people go, well, I need to prepare for that. And I understand if you're working for a large corporate or you're working in where reputation's an issue. But we sort of live and breathe energy. We live and breathe the net zero stuff. Sue and I both have personal opinions. They're not necessarily everyone's cup of tea. I am definitely Marmite. So for those people who don't know what Marmite is, it's something that is either a fantastically tasty or fantastically horrible. Okay, so I'm Marmite. I am not everyone's cup of tea. I know that. And the people that like me, great. And the people that don't like me, I have respect in terms of don't like me. Don't like. I don't need to be loved. Okay, but then don't throw away my opinions either. Take them on board. So I don't like this whole Google, Facebook. You get pushed down particular routes. So I actually try and click on stuff now just so that it throws them off, the algorithms, because the algorithms are terrible. They keep pushing you into certain things, okay? And it just reinforces. So we all end up in an echo chamber. I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I want to hear people's opinions, and I may not agree with them, but otherwise we won't have a healthy debate. Okay?
I find the algorithm stifles what I'm trying to do on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's like my office. And, I've got to do various different things to get them posts out there, which is frustrating. Sometimes I look at my post and I think, if that's good content I've put out there today and only 3,000 people have looked at it, and you think, I've got 20,000 people following me. Why? I want everyone to read it because I've just said something important, My podcasts are important. I've got algorithm. It's all about greed and people getting money for all the different posts and things like that. It's crazy. I think we need to put all that to one side.
Yeah, the other problem you've got, and look, I come from a sales background, Paul. Okay, I'm very salesperson. I'm very sales led. I think I do a good job of listening when I'm in a. It's my ex saw me today, and she said, "You're listening?" I said, "Yeah, I was just in a meeting. I just listened." She went, "I go, oh, it was to do with money, wasn't it?" I said, "Yeah. Whenever it's about money, I can listen." Today's not about money. That's why I'm happy to go. But when it comes to that whole we talk about the algorithms or whatever. If you end up just being in an echo chamber, you don't hear what else is going around. Now, I've become like a self-taught marketeer since 2010 because when we started Energy Live News, we had no audience. So to get an audience, we had to start sending emails out. We had to start doing the whole email marketing. We had to go and get those people. And we did it through social media. We did it from buying lists, the decent lists that were appropriate, that had the right sort of consents, etc. But it's taken years and years. And I've probably been through 150,000 email addresses to get the 30,000 that we were talking about earlier. But we're very categorical, which is our unsubscribe is no thanks, click on that. If you don't want to hear from us, we don't want to know. We say this is purely about energy. And if you're not interested in energy, you shouldn't be getting our email. So if someone by accident gets there, and we don't hide it, we don't put it in a small typeface, we do it at the same size as everything else, because we would rather get people off our database than keep them on there. Okay. And I think the problem is now, once upon a time, it was, you could contact somebody 5 to 12 times and they would probably get back to you, and you had to do email, telephone, whatever. I think you're probably looking at, to get through to somebody now, 25 to 40 times. You've got to contact them in some way. So you might be texting, you might be WhatsApping, you might be emailing them, you might be doing something through LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. And I think the difficulty for your 20,000 you'd like to hit is that they're getting bombarded by stuff as well. So you've got to look at, you've got to look at other angles. So, you might say Geoff Curran talks about net zero, or you could go Geoff Curran's talking a load of nonsense, or Geoff Curran's been doing, the founder of Energy Live News. That will pull in more people just because there'll be angles that they prefer to hear about. Yeah. And learning that's quite tough. I mean, I have when people don't respond to stuff, I don't take it personally. I get it. You're probably the same as me. You get so much email every day that actually you just can't even physically keep up with it.
Can't cope with it. No.
It's mental. It's totally mental. It's like, and you sort of think, I'll cull some of this, but it's just not that easy to do it.
Well, look, just lastly, 2 points. Yes, I agree with your point about your Marmite, but I like you. So thank you very much. And then the second point, thank you for opening my email regarding my request to come on this podcast today.
No, it has been fantastic. So thanks very much for that. And if you're ever short because someone's let you down, you can always give me a quick call. I'm happy to come back on again.
I'm sure you will. So, Geoff, thank you very much for coming today. I'd like to say just lastly, you and your family be safe in these times, and specifically over Christmas. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you.